Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. I do apologize that this video is coming out a little bit later than I normally post. Unfortunately, on Wednesdays, I'm just super busy. I have class pretty much all day, so I promise you I was at least being productive, and I wasn't just sitting around not recording. But anyway, with that being said, we do have a lot to talk about today. So if you are new here, though, my name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And this is my channel where I will give you the forecast every day. So make sure you subscribe because we have a very active pattern coming up here in the East. And like the video and share it with anybody that you think might be interested here in the eastern half of the country, because we have some very interesting stuff to talk about today, and what I really think will be quite the return of winter for a lot of us, including some of those that may not have seen snow really at all this year. And I am talking about some of you on the I-95 corridor could potentially get some snow here within the next 10 days. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about who I think has the best chance at it and who's right on that line. That really is just a coin flip at this point. But with all that said, let's go ahead and get into it because we do have a lot going on right now. So you're going to hear me mention this a lot into today's video. It's kind of a 3-round setup we're dealing with right now. So I'm going to break this down first with round 1, and then we're going to go into round 2, and then we're going to discuss round 3. But round 1 is already upon us right now. As you can see here across the center of the country here, we have this stormy weather ongoing, including some snow. So we've got our low pressure here centered right over Kansas right now, and that is helping to produce some snow here into the plains, and then as well as some severe thunderstorms down here into the south. So that's something we've been dealing with all day today, and this system is going to continue to impact us really throughout the next 72 hours. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that, but I do want to show you satellite as well because quite a mesmerizing view on satellite today. You can see that low pressure here cranking up all of this snow up here to the north, and then you can see this convection firing off to the south and east of that low, causing some severe storms and even a couple tornado warnings we've had issued today with those severe storms rolling through sections of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee. All right, so looking at some of those current hazards right now, the most pressing issue right now is this tornado watch that should expire here maybe by the time you're watching this, but that will last for the next couple of hours here throughout Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas. We only have one severe thunderstorm warning currently, so right now things are somewhat calm, but other than that, we do have all of these winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings here to the north of that low pressure, and some of us here, especially into sections of Nebraska and the Great Lakes, are really going to get a solid thumping of snow out of this. And then also notice the winter weather advisories here into the northeast. So also going to see some snow there into the northeast. A lot of places that have already seen some snow this year, but the storm is a bit further south than the one we were dealing with this time last week. So instead of just the farther northern tip, of Maine, a big section of New England will get some snow out of this system. All right, so I did want to show you tonight's low temperatures real quick. Again, a very mild night here across the east as that low pressure here is going to continue to pump up that warm Gulf air ahead of it, and that is also helping to cause some of that severe weather right now. But that severe weather threat should die off as we get into the overnight, and we shouldn't have too much of a severe weather threat going into tomorrow for most places, just because we're going to be lacking some of those ingredients that will be needed. So high temperatures tomorrow. Again, another warm day here, especially into the south and east. This low pressure is going to have that cold front following it tomorrow. So after we get through tomorrow and the next day, we should begin to slowly get cooler temperatures the further east that system tracks. So once you clear out from the system, you will likely have cooler temperatures. But let's go ahead and time out this system now for everyone here in the east. So like I said, currently already have some of that snow falling here into Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, and then dealing with that line of storms to the south. So this is what we're currently looking at on radar, and we'll go ahead and time this out. So as we get into the overnight tonight, you can see that band of snow, and going into tomorrow morning, it's going to work its way up and over into the Great Lakes, and then we'll just be left with some showers here on the south side of this, so won't be expecting too much in terms of severe weather here. But as we get into tomorrow afternoon, the system is going to begin to lose some of its moisture here into the southeast. So expect kind of a broken line of showers tomorrow, but I don't expect a washout tomorrow for the southeast and mid-Atlantic. But definitely some showery weather with this system as that snow continues to crank up into the Great Lakes tomorrow afternoon. As we get into the overnight tomorrow, you can see we begin to clear out here into the southeast and mid-Atlantic, but then the storm's going to get cranking up off the New England coastline, producing some of that heavy snow into Vermont, New Hampshire, extreme northern Massachusetts. A place like Boston likely going to be mainly rain with this system tomorrow evening. Maybe some snow on the front end, but we will get snow on the back end as well as we get into Friday morning here as the system is pulling away and going off into the Atlantic. We will get the snow on this back end to maybe bring some light snow and snow showers into the Boston area, and then as well as areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine still getting snow before we clear out going into this weekend and have a pretty nice Saturday for most of us in these before we set up shop for round 2. So we'll talk about round 2 here in a minute, but I do want to talk about snowfall totals and rain totals out of round 1, which we are currently dealing with. So again, the most snow out of this, I really see bullseyes here over Nebraska, up into the Great Lakes, especially into Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and then into the higher terrains here of the Northeast. I think here in sections of Nebraska could pass a foot of snow in places, but 6 to 12 inches is a pretty safe bet into Nebraska, as well as the Great Lakes, and then into those higher elevations of New England, with 3 to 5 inches more widespread in between those zones. And then Boston, I think about an inch, maybe upwards to 3 inches, if you can overperform a little bit with that back end snow. All right, so also we're going to be dealing with some rain out of this. I don't expect this to be a huge rainmaker, but nonetheless, you can see still getting some of those showers to work their way here into the southeast and mid-Atlantic over the next 48 hours. Again, I don't expect a washout tomorrow for us here into the southeast and mid-Atlantic, but enough rain that it is definitely worth mentioning, and you might want to grab your umbrella, which, I found out the hard way yesterday is a smart thing to do whenever it rains. So anyway, moving on to round 2 now. So this storm here with round 2 will begin to impact us going into this weekend. And this one could be quite the rainmaker here into the southeast. I talked about the first storm being, losing some of that moisture as it gets into the southeast. I think this second system into this weekend will cause quite the washout into Sunday and Monday, but also some snow for some of us as well. So this one, we'll go ahead and look at both of our models, see what kind of discrepancies we have, and I will give you my forecast and what I think is most likely to happen. So with the Euro here, pretty clear until we get into Sunday morning here. You see that widespread rain unfolding here into the southeast, as well as some lighter snow here into the the Midwest. Sorry, I almost called that the Mid-Atlantic. That is definitely not the Mid-Atlantic. That is the Midwest. Again, though, this is Sunday morning, so if you're going to church on Sunday morning, make sure you've got your umbrella here. Throughout really much of the east dealing with this precipitation. As we get into Sunday afternoon, still dealing with that heavy rainfall here into the southeast. But this is whenever we see that snow really crank up going into Sunday afternoon. So Euro here shows that snow getting up into Pennsylvania, the mountains of the Virginias here on Sunday afternoon. And then as we get into the overnight on Sunday, Euro really cranks this system up here. And I'll tell you, this is going to be quite the close call here for the I-95. You see with this, you're mainly rain on the I-95, but I'll give you some evidence for solutions that may point to a bit of a snowier solution for the I-95 here in a couple minutes. Not saying that's going to happen, but what I am saying is that solution is still on the table. This is going into Sunday night, though. As we get into early Monday morning, you see that snow really cranking up here in the interior northeast and really bringing quite the snowstorm here. And then that continues going into Monday afternoon. And anytime you see a 983 millibar low here off the coast of New England, you're going to get something special. So just here right now in a place like Maine, looking at Monday, it looks like probably near blizzard conditions here with such a strong low pressure bringing that strong wind and really super heavy snowfall. And you're also likely going to get some coastal flooding with a solution like this, with all that strong onshore wind here into New England. So if you're in one of those kind of normal flood-prone areas on the coast, I definitely watch this. And then the Euro cranks that thing sub 975 going into Monday afternoon. And that would bring us quite the snowstorm into big chunks of New England. So that's the Euro operational run. Let's look at some of the ensembles and see if the ensembles agree with the Euro here, or if the ensembles think we might get a bit of a different solution. So this is that system here. This is Sunday evening going into Monday. You see, all of these dots here are where the ensembles project that the slow pressure track will be. So the operational run had a track kind of like this, really hugging the coastline, and that would bring rain to the I-95 corridor and snow further inland. So we look at the ensembles here, though, and you can see they are clustered in here, but we do have other members further to the south and east. So we're going to have to watch that. A big cluster here into the inland area, so that is definitely the more likely solution right now, but we do have enough members here further offshore that we have to keep an eye on that, and that could bring that snow shield closer to the coastline. Right now, though, I would buy these more inland members, but I do want to point out that more of a snowier solution for the I-95 corridor is still on the table nonetheless, and especially once we get further out, you can see these possibilities really begin to spread out, and you get members as far inland as central Massachusetts and as far offshore as, a couple hundred miles off the eastern seaboard. So definitely have time to fine-tune this, but what I can tell you is there will be quite the impactful storm here in the Northeast, going into later this weekend and into early next week. So that is something I can guarantee you. As for who exactly sees snow, the interior Northeast into upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, I feel very confident they will see snow. As for the I-95, not out of it, but chances a bit lower with this second storm. But once we get to that third storm for our folks on the I-95, I think that's a lot more of a favorable solution, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. But looking further into this second storm here with the Euro ensembles, this is a map I love. It shows the chance of seeing snow accumulating past an inch. And this is going into next Monday morning. Look at this area of the Northeast that is likely to see that accumulating snowfall. So, Manhattan, Boston, Philly, you're right here on the edge of this. So that's what I mean. We're going to have a ton of close calls here on the I-95. That I can just about guarantee you. Going through the next 10 days, it is going to be close. But if you get this shield of precipitation and just scoot south, 100 and 150 miles, the I-95 is in play. But right now, given what we've seen recently, I think this is probably a pretty good bet, what you see here. So interior sections of Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, I think you're really going to get a good one out of this storm, and could potentially be the best one of the year so far. So that is the Euro. Let's look at the GFS and the GFS ensemble members now and see what they have to say about this storm. So GFS again brings that heavy rain here into the southeast going into Sunday morning, and continues to rain throughout the day Sunday. Again, Sunday looks like a washout here throughout much of the southeast. And then here on the GFS, you see that snow beginning to break out here into New England going into Sunday night. Once again, this is interior sections of New England. And as we bring this further ahead into time, the GFS is even further inland. So the GFS keeps that snow even further out into the inland sections of New England and the mid-Atlantic, and brings, quite the rainstorm here to the I-95. But what the GFS does do, as well as the Euro, is deepen the slow pressure and really cause a lot of that onshore flow. So I still think coastal flooding will be a problem no matter what here with this storm. But snow, a lot more unlikely here on the operational GFS, and then that clears out as well as it continues to kind of bomb out up the coast going into next Monday and Tuesday on the GFS. So let's also look at the GFS ensembles and look at where its members place the slow pressure system. So here on the GFS, You notice these low members are a lot further to the south and east than the operational model just was. If we go back and look at the operational model, you can see it has that low pressure really marching right over like Philadelphia here on Sunday night. The operational runs, or the ensemble runs, that's quite the outlier compared to the ensembles. The ensembles have that low riding the coast a lot more and a lot further offshore. So this is something we'll have to watch. Again, if you get a member like this, you get that snow shield a lot closer to the coastline. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but what I am saying is that is a possibility, and we'll watch out for that. But again, right now, I favor that rain-snow line kind of right on the I-95 corridor with this second storm at least. And then, the ensembles, again, bomb that out going up the coastline. So now let's look at the same map that we looked at with the Euro ensembles, the chance of seeing that snow accumulate here with this storm. GFS ensembles, again, the interior New England and Northeast really looking like the prime spot for this, and then a lot less chances the closer you get to the coastline with this system. So second storm, I really don't think I-95 is going to get that snow that you're probably looking for with the second storm, but let's take a look at the third storm and see if maybe this one can do it for us. So the third storm is even further out than the second storm, obviously. This would be going into the middle of next week. So what I'm going to show you here is to kind of dumb this, or not dumb this map down, but bring simplicity into it, I guess, is probably a better way to put it. Pretty much the colors here are just a way to show energy in the atmosphere. So this kind of big blob of colors that you see here is the storm that we're going to be dealing with going into this coming weekend, or round 2, as I've been calling it. You can see that kind of works its way right up into the northeast and causing some of that snow into there, kind of troughing down, as we like to say. Why that is ongoing, Storm 3 is getting going. You see this trough here digging into the Rockies, and what that's going to do is do what we like to say eject, or kind of shoot out and across the United States. So this is round 3. Watch this here. And this is the Euro, I should add, from this afternoon. You can see that digs in, that really gets going here. Look at these bright colors indicating that energy. And then that shoots across the southern United States and then begins to cut across the mid-Atlantic here. You can see that troughing here. And then eventually works its way through the northeast. You can see that here with this troughing here. So that is round 3, and I think round 3 looks probably the most favorable out of the 3 for snow closer to the coastline and closer to those higher populated areas into the northeast. Looking at the snowfall chances again, but for round 3 now, here with the Euro, that's round 2 there. This is round 3. So although you don't see the colors as bright, that's mainly just because it's further out. And then this would again indicate a storm track more like this. So a bit further offshore here, and potentially a higher chance of seeing that snow into the I-95 here. So again, another close call it looks like, but I think Storm 3 has the greatest chance of bringing snow to the I-95. As for us folks here in the southeast, which I haven't really been talking all that much about, it doesn't look great here within the next 10 days to see some of that snowfall here, unfortunately, but I think the northeast does have the higher chances of that snow. So sorry for us in the southeast. Again, I don't think these storms are really going to do it in terms of snowfall, but they will still impact us here in the southeast, likely with a lot of rain and maybe even some wind as well. So those were all of the Euro models for this round 3. Let's go ahead and look at the GFS now. Once again here in the GFS, you see this trough digging in here for round 3, and you see this low pressure getting going here. This is, excuse me, actually that's round 2. This is round 3, sorry. So once we go into the middle of next week here, you can see this really getting going here. And although one difference I will note here in the GFS doesn't strengthen this nearly as much down here. Remember looking back at the Euro, you saw this kind of bowling ball look down here. The GFS is a lot more disorganized with this, although still troughing. Less organized energy here, I guess, is one way to word it. But once this gets going here, you can see this trough then again moves into the northeast, and you can see this shape right here, indicating that trough, with trying to bring in some cooler weather as well as stormy weather following this, going into the middle of next week, before that would eventually clear out. So round 3 here with the GFS, looking at those snowfall chances, that's round 2 in the Northeast, you see. And this is round 3. So again, you see, places like Boston, Philadelphia, places here along the I-95 having higher chances and really about the same chances at this point as some of the areas further inland. And also, I think down here into potentially the mountains of western North Carolina and the Virginias, with round 3 could also have a pretty good shot with this system as well to get some of that snow. All right, so now we've talked about all that, we can go ahead and look at the longer range. And I'll tell you why I think the chance of snow with this is rather important for us, because our good old pal, the Southeast Ridge, looks like he's going to try to come back in to the picture once we get done with these 3 storms. So that's round 1. You can see they're moving through the Northeast in blue there. Here is round 2. You can see moving through the Northeast. And then here is round 3, kind of digging here into the central part of the United States here on the GFS. And then that moves through. And behind that, it looks like we get some cooler weather for a while here in the east, and definitely colder than average. And for January standards here, this would be late January. But after that, once we get past 10 days, you see this orange color here working its way back in, indicating the Southeast Ridge, bringing in some of those warmer temperatures to the southeast. So we'll have to watch that once we get past these 3 storms. So that's the GFS. Looking at the Euro here, this is round 1 that's going to move through within the next couple days here. Then this is round 2 that's going to move through later this weekend. And then this is round 3. You can see getting going here down towards the 4 corners. And then that ejects up through the Northeast as well, getting towards the middle of next week. And with that, cooler, stormier weather with that, and then just cooler, probably drier conditions behind it before eventually that Southeast Ridge looks to come back into the picture. So what does all of this mean? This is the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook here for the eastern for the United States as a whole, although I'm mainly talking about the eastern United States here. You can see cooler than average temperatures or near average temperatures throughout much of this part of the country. Whenever you're in late January too, you don't necessarily need these really dark blue, super below average temperatures to get snow. You really just want to avoid these orange colors. So that's the temperature outlook. Now looking at the precipitation outlook, you can see above average precipitation or near average precipitation. So the combination here of that cooler weather as well as that wetter weather signals higher probability of seeing winter weather here throughout the east. But with all that said, I do apologize. This was a bit of a longer video, but we did have a lot to talk about, and hopefully you learned something, and if you didn't, then well, hopefully you at least enjoyed it. But if you made it this far, let me know. That is super cool if you did, and super impressive because I almost didn't make it this far. This is a lot of talking. I'm surprised I didn't even have to take a sip of water throughout the entire thing. But also, let me know where you're watching from, and if you think you will see snow within the next 10 days. But with all that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.